Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. Have you ever felt tired, even after being at home all day? Not physically exhausted, just mentally drained. You didn't argue with anyone, you didn't run a marathon, but somehow your energy feels scattered. We often think of our homes as passive backdrops, but they're not. They are actively shaping your stress levels, your habits, and even your identity. Every color, every sound, every layout decision is sending signals to your nervous system. Be alert, be tense, be distracted, or you're safe. You can rest now. Today, I want to explore something deeper than decor, not trends, not styling, but how to design your home as an ecosystem for mental well-being, where beauty, biology, behavior, and identity quietly align. Because when they don't align, you feel friction. When they do, you feel coherence, and coherence changes everything. Welcome to our channel. This is a space where psychology, neuroscience, behavior science, and design come together to support mental well-being, resilience, and human flourishing. Today, I'm going to show you how to design your home so it restores you instead of draining you. Not through expensive renovations, not through aesthetic trends, but through intentional design decisions grounded in neuroscience, behavioral science, and positive psychology. Because design, when understood properly, is not decoration. It is behavior shaping. It is nervous system regulating. It is life enhancing. By the end, you'll know exactly what to change and why it works. Ready to turn your home into your personal mental well-being retreat? Let's get started. The invisible conversation between your brain and your home. Have you ever walked into a room and felt something shift before you knew why? That's not imagination. Your brain is constantly predicting, scanning, assessing. Am I safe here? Do I need to be alert? Can I relax? This process, sometimes described in neuroscience as neuroception, happens beneath awareness. If your space is cluttered, visually noisy, harshly lit, or acoustically unpredictable, your nervous system remains slightly vigilant, not panicked, just never fully settled, and that low-grade vigilance accumulates. Aesthetics versus health versus functions. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people separate beauty from health, but your brain doesn't. Visual complexity affects cognitive load. Lighting affects hormones. Layout affects habit formation. Objects affect identity. Also, we often separate beauty from function. We say, this looks good. This works well. This feels calming. But your brain doesn't separate them. Your nervous system responds to all of it simultaneously. Aesthetic choices influence emotional regulation. Spatial layout shapes behavior. Lighting regulates hormones. Materials affect sensory processing. Your home is not visual design, it's biological design. Take something simple, a chair. Aesthetically, it might be sculptural and elegant. Functionally, it might support posture. But neurologically, if it forces subtle muscular tension, your body remains in low-grade stress. Beauty without ergonomic coherence becomes cognitive dissonance. Now imagine a chair that supports spinal alignment, uses natural materials, fits the proportion of the room, invites you to sit without effort. That is where aesthetics meets neuroscience meets health. Function and functionality. Function is not just convenience, it is behavioral architecture. If your kitchen layout makes healthy cooking difficult, you'll default to convenience food. If your workspace layout encourages constant interruption, focus declines. Function shapes habit formation. Habit formation shapes long-term health. So when we blend aesthetics, neuroscience, health, and functionality, we are really talking about one thing: designing environments that make flourishing easier than friction. In my work integrating design, behavioral science, and well-being, I often describe this as designing for coherence, where beauty, biology, and behavior align. Because when those three are aligned, the nervous system relaxes. And when the nervous system relaxes, clarity, creativity, and resilience expand. So the most powerful design is not what you see. It's what your nervous system feels. The Flourish Environmental Coherence Model. I developed the Flourish Environmental Coherence Model as a framework for designing environments that promote well-being and flourishing. The definition is: the Flourish Environmental Coherence Model is a science-informed design framework that aligns beauty, biology, behavior, and identity to create environments that actively support mental well-being and human flourishing. At its core, coherence occurs when aesthetic expression, neurological regulation, behavioral cues, and functional systems are aligned rather than competing. When environments are incoherent, they drain energy. When they are coherent, they regulate, restore, and reinforce growth. For each design element, always move through this arc: aesthetic, what we see; neuroscience, what the brain does; health impact, what the body experiences; functionality, what behavior follows. Let's look at these 4 pillars one by one. 1. Aesthetics that regulate, not just impress. Let's start with something simple: color. Instead of asking, "What color do I like?" ask, "What state should this room support?" Because every room rehearses a state. Your bedroom isn't just a room, it's a recovery environment to help you restore your energy. So think softer tones, muted palettes, colors that don't demand attention, nothing that shouts at your brain. This reduces sensory demand and helps the nervous system downshift. Now compare that with your workspace. Here, you're not trying to unwind, you're trying to think clearly, decide, create. If it's visually chaotic, papers everywhere, mismatched stimuli competing for attention. Your prefrontal cortex has to filter constantly. Filtering consumes energy. Energy depletion feels like fatigue. That might mean a little more contrast. Balanced brightness, enough visual clarity to keep your prefrontal cortex engaged, but not overstimulated. Aesthetics can either drain attention or conserve it. True visual harmony reduces cognitive friction. It doesn't scream for attention. It allows you to think. And when a space allows you to think clearly, it becomes beautiful in a deeper way. And your living room? That's often about connection, conversation, belonging. Use warmer neutrals, subtle variation, textures that feel inviting rather than sharp. So instead of designing for taste alone, design for state. Because every room is quietly asking your nervous system to behave in a certain way, and you get to decide what that invitation feels like. A quick practical exercise. Stand in each room and ask, does this space feel like the state is meant to support? If not, start with one adjustment. Remove one visually noisy surface. Replace one harsh bulb with warm light. Introduce one natural material. Small shifts, significant neurological impact. 2. Biological alignment, designing with your physiology. Lighting. Let's talk about lighting. Many homes prioritize brightness, but the brain prioritizes rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is light dependent. Morning light increases cortisol appropriately, helping you feel alert. Evening dimness allows melatonin to rise, but most homes are designed for brightness at all hours. Overhead white lighting at 10 p.m. screens inches from your eyes. And then we blame ourselves for poor sleep. Solution: layer your lighting. Morning: open curtains within the first hour of waking. Even cloudy daylight helps. Evening: turn off overhead lights after sunset. Use table lamps. Warm tones around 2700 Kelvin. When you design with circadian awareness, layered lighting becomes both beautiful and regulatory. Soft lamps in the evening, natural daylight exposure in the morning. Now your design is aligned with cortisol cycles and parasympathetic activation. This simple change can improve sleep quality more than many supplements. That's not trend-driven styling. That's health-conscious design intelligence. Sound. Close your eyes for a moment and think about this. What does your home sound like? Is there constant background hum, traffic, appliances, notifications? The brain is exquisitely sensitive to unpredictability. Unpredictable sound keeps the nervous system slightly guarded, even if you don't consciously notice it. Now imagine soft, steady background music or white noise that smooths the edges of disruption. Your nervous system relaxes when the environment feels predictable, and relaxation is not laziness. It is the foundation of resilience. Scent. And scent. Scent is even more intimate. Smell travels directly to the emotional brain. That's why one fragrance can instantly transport you to a memory. What if you use scent intentionally? Lavender to close the day. Citrus to begin it. Rosemary for focus. Your home can cue states before your thoughts catch up. Bring nature back into the equation. Humans evolved in natural environments. Modern interiors are evolutionarily new. Research in environmental psychology shows that even brief exposure to greenery reduces rumination and mental fatigue. This relates to attention restoration theory. Natural elements engage what's called soft fascination, allowing the brain to recover. Solution: Add one plant near your workspace. Place natural materials where your hands touch: wood, linen, stone. Maximize daylight access. You don't need a forest, you need cues of life. 3. Behavioral architecture, when your space shapes your habits. Why do certain habits feel harder at home? Why does focus drift? Why does rest feel incomplete? Often, it's because your environment lacks behavioral clarity. If your dining table is also your office and also your scrolling station, your brain stops knowing what mode to enter. Context shapes behavior. This is called context-dependent processing. When boundaries blur, mental states blur. Solution: you don't need more space, you need clearer cues. A rug can define a relaxation zone. A specific lamp can signal reading time. A screen divider can separate work from rest. A tray that stores work materials out of sight at the end of the day. These are not decorative gestures, they are behavioral architecture. When work disappears visually, cognitive residue decreases. Another powerful shift: make desired behaviors visible. If you want to journal, place the notebook on your bedside table. If you want to stretch, leave the mat partially visible. Behavioral science is clear. We repeat what is easy and visible. Design reduces reliance on motivation. Design reduces friction. Friction shapes habits. Habits shape health. 4. Identity, the most overlooked layer. Now we move to something deeper: identity. Your environment reflects who you believe you are, but it also reinforces who you are becoming. Look around your home. Does it reflect your current values or an outdated version of yourself? An environment misaligned with your current values creates subtle psychological tension, not dramatic, just dissonant. Maybe you value health, but your kitchen signals convenience over nourishment. Maybe you value creativity, but your space feels sterile and uninspiring. Maybe you value calm, but your home feels visually loud. Identity coherence matters. Identity-based behavior research shows that when actions align with self-concept, they become stable. Your home should quietly affirm, this is who you are becoming. Solution: remove objects that represent roles you've outgrown. Display items that reinforce growth. When your space reflects your future self, books you want to read, art that resonates, objects that symbolize growth, motivation becomes stable. Because the environment is confirming your evolution, your home becomes an ally, not an obstacle. Coherence, when everything aligns. Here's the shift. When aesthetics support biology, when biology supports behavior, when behavior reinforces identity, coherence emerges, and the brain loves coherence. When elements align instead of compete, cognitive load decreases, stress response lowers, clarity increases, energy stabilizes. A coherent home doesn't just look good, it feels regulating. It makes healthy behavior easier. It reflects your future self, and that is where flourishing begins. Design is not decoration, it is nervous system choreography. Every color, texture, scent, and boundary sends a signal to your brain. You are safe, you are focused, you can rest. A tranquil home isn't about perfection. It's about alignment between your biology, your psychology, and your environment. At the beginning, I asked, what if your home is quietly exhausting you? Now you know how, and more importantly, how to change it. Ask, what state does this space rehearse? What behavior does it encourage? What identity does it reinforce? You don't need to renovate everything. Start with one room, change one zone, shift one light, add one plant, and observe small adjustments, profound neurological consequences. Because a truly well-designed home isn't styled, it's biologically attuned, and when your space becomes coherent, your mind follows. If this video gave you a new way of seeing your home, subscribe. We'll continue exploring how design, neuroscience, and psychology intersect, not just to create beautiful spaces, but to design conditions for human flourishing. And tell me in the comments, which room are you redesigning first?